Welcome to Parenting Talk. I'm your host, Coach Hall, and today I have a special guest and we have a special topic. It is parenting as a single mother. And I have a wonderful life coach that's going to help me figure out the riddles to this issue of single parenting as a mother. Her name is Karen Armstrong. She's not only a wonderful life coach, but she juggles a lot of things, runs a business, is also a parent to a couple of children. And she's actually helped me in a life coaching experience we had a few weeks ago. So I can attest to her fantastic skills, and I'm so honored to have her here with me today. So before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to Karen and have her introduce herself and tell you guys a little bit about what she does.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Donnie. Yes, I am a single mom and have been for years now. I have two sons. They're 10 and 14, and I'm a life coach. So when it comes to coaching, I take a very holistic approach of the mind, body, and spirit. I believe you need to look at every angle. However, I focus a lot on the mind. So applying concepts like neurolistical programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, and mindfulness help me help others seek, the answers from within them. So there's a lot of self-awareness and emotional control that comes out of it. And the majority of the people that I help are experiencing stress and anxiety or are just stuck and overwhelmed in their life.
Okay, super. Okay, so let's get started here. My first question, because I'm very interested, and more importantly, there are millions of single mothers out there that could really use some advice. And so I'm so happy that you're here. And my first question to you is, how did the transition from being married to being single affect you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Basically, it's like your whole world changes, right? So with everything, there was actually some good parts to it and there was bad. The good was, or at least in the relationship I was in, I found it easier because I had less responsibility in physical work. I was kind of that do-it-all perfectionist type mom and wife. So it was very physically draining. However, nothing can ever prepare you for the emotional impact of a divorce. And, you have like whatever issues are going on within your relationship. But when it comes to your child, and I can only speak from a mother's standpoint, but even when the marriage wasn't going good, what kept me there for years was that I would never spend a night without one of my children, and that I would never have somebody else raise my children. And, it's that battle between, what's best for you, I guess, on the surface, versus best for your kids. But then there's a lot of misperception when that goes on. On the surface, I was scared for them not to be with me, so for them to be without me, but I didn't realize the impact of them living in a family that wasn't happy either and functional either. So the emotional transition was very difficult for me.
Which leads me to the next question, which is obviously is part of your heart and soul, your children. How did this transition in life, family dynamics impact your kids?
It was hard for them as well. Obviously they're used to mom and dad being together, regardless of what that looked like. That's all they ever knew. And so for them, it was very difficult. My children were 6 and 2, almost 3 and 7. And for them, there's different stages in a child's life where they look to mom or they look to dad. And I'm sure that varies whether they're a boy or a girl. But this mom, again, she was a perfectionist and she did it all. So, when we separated, I was able to function at the same level. The home felt the same because the proper meals are being cooked and laundry was being done and, doctor appointments were being attended. Everything still functioned smoothly. However, their father wasn't as active prior to the split up. And so he had a really hard time. He had a hard time with making their lunches and with their meals and, dealing with their bedtime nonsense when they don't want to go to bed. His patience level was different. So it was really hard for them to adjust to having two different homes. Kids are resilient and over time they get used to it, especially with age. But at the point in their lives when we separated, They really needed that motherly role. They really needed, well, I mean, it's their basic needs are their biggest concern, right? So when it comes to food and sleep and structure, they needed that to be met.
Okay, I can relate to that. I went through a divorce myself, and just as I'm going to slip in a side question here that wasn't prepped, but just curious, did you see a kind of a grief cycle that took place with your kids? You know, the denial and the, all the way around anger and pointing the blame to them, and, all the steps of the grieving cycle before they finally got to acceptance.
Yeah, I wasn't conscious of the grieving cycle. And so I didn't know to look for it. All I remember at that point in time, because it's been several years now, it's been about 7 or 8 years now. But at that time, it was just when they needed to go back, they would literally just cry. They just didn't want to go back. So I mean, to take your most precious thing in life and have to hand it over, like, the father has rights too, right? And it's good for the kids at a certain level, but it was incredibly difficult. And so they really missed me. And there was a lot of that emotional, it was very, very difficult that way. So I'm not really sure that the grieving, how that took place. They definitely did want us back together, but they were with me most of the time. So it was almost like they were going to dad's for a visit for a few days.
But at some point you did recognize or see that they've kind of accepted this new dynamic, or is it still an issue?
No, it's definitely not still an issue. I guess probably when that happened, like I met a gentleman and he moved in and he was pretty much a father to my kids. And he just loved them and spent so much quality time with us. And so I guess that for my specific situation is what changed it. Because I think the kids felt like they had that family. Like we did a lot of outdoor stuff and a lot of fun things. And we were always together and doing activities together. So I think at that point, they, came to terms with it because I had moved on. And then same with their dad, like he has had relationships and he is now married. So, I think when they see that at the relationship level, the parents change, that they realize, okay, there's no going back. Cause now like, it's not like mom and dad are both single. Maybe they'll get back together. It's like, well, now it's not possible because there's other people in the picture.
Okay, super. But the whole thing does sound like quite a traumatic experience. Probably a lot of struggles along the way. And so my question is, what struggles were you least prepared for?
All of them. So many, many things. Like it's the all or nothing. So when you have them, you have no relief, right? Like you can't just run out to the gym or run out and get groceries without the kids because they were too little. So you either couldn't go or you had to pack them with you. So that was difficult. It's the all or nothing. When they're with you, it's very, very busy. When they're gone, there's nothing. So until, taking self-development courses and learning more about myself, I had some very strong labels, and mom was the biggest one of them. And so when I didn't have my kids, I didn't really have anything. And I remember being very, very depressed and just sad. Like you would think, oh, well, when her kids aren't there, she has all this time and freedom and probably going out and having fun and getting all this stuff done. And it was the exact opposite. It's like I just didn't feel like I had a purpose, and I didn't feel like I had a reason to do anything. I was way less productive, as crazy as it sounds, when I didn't have them than the times that I did and I was stressed and overwhelmed.
Wow.
Other things like is the delete button. When your marriage ends, you don't have that person to go back and reminisce of when the children were born and when this happened or that happened. So you can see I'm already choking up a bit, right? Like that stuff, I don't think you ever fully get over it because that's a really important time in your life. Like some amazing things happen, even family pictures. Like when you bring partners in, like when I met somebody, I mean, it was great in the beginning and he was great with the whole being divorced thing. But as soon as, he got comfortable, it was his insecurities came out. So then he didn't like any text messaging or any conversing with my ex, even though it was just about the children. He couldn't take it from his own past experiences. So that created a lot of tension. So the father of my kids is like, he will always be a friend of mine. But when you get partners involved, they can also complicate it as well.
Wow. Okay. For all the mothers that are going through this right now, we've talked about a lot of the struggles at this point. What solutions have you come up with that can help, that you've experienced that have helped you get through this and perhaps can help other single mothers out there?
For sure. A big thing I had to come to terms with is that it takes a village to raise a child. And that is true. I have never been one to accept help from others. I don't know. Maybe I thought I'd be weak. I'm not really sure what was going on in the subconscious level, but it's just, I wouldn't accept help, or definitely wouldn't ask for it. But you need to. And it's seeing that end goal in mind. Like if the kids have sports and you have to work to pay 100% of the bills, you can't always be at the sports when you have to work. And so you have to come to terms and be real with what you can and cannot do in life, and not play that guilt shame game where, I'm not a good enough mom because my kids have to carpool all the time. For the families that can offer you help, they want to help you. And so just get good at, accepting it. It makes a huge difference. Self-love and core value alignment is huge too. I always gave. I always took care of everybody. And I didn't ever learn how to take care of myself. So it wasn't until I was single that I was able to turn the focus inward. And that is critical to survival. So they tell you when a plane's going down, you have to put your mask on first. It's the same thing in a divorce. You have had your whole life ripped out from under you. Everything is changing. And so you have to be able to pick up the pieces and build a new life. And in order to do that, you need to be strong and healthy. And that was very difficult. Learning about core values, there's two ways to improve your life. And one is taking out the bad and then adding in the good. So knowing that connection was huge for myself, now you don't have a relationship to get it with, it makes it that much more important to create events or create opportunities with family or friends or even your children. When you're stressed out and overwhelmed, which I think probably 100% of single parents are, especially in the beginning, the last thing you think about is, things like self-love and core values, but that has the biggest impact on your coping skills.
Wow, that's fantastic advice. I love the analogy with the airplane. That resonates with me. I always think that way too, that you got to put the mask on yourself before you start applying the mask to others. So very good, very good. Is there any other advice that you could give as we get close to wrapping this up that you might be able to offer to mothers that are maybe going through the divorce or in the process and they're struggling with being a single mom?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a big challenge that you're going to face is emotional triggering. So when it comes to the ex, there's still a lot of unsaid words. There's still a lot of unprocessed emotions. Depending on your situation, why you split up, it could be very volatile. And so even just seeing the other person could create physical illness in you, or get you very upset instantly. So it's one, being aware, especially if your children are around, not to display that, because their little hearts are half mom and half dad, and they don't understand adult issues. So that's part of it. But even for yourself is knowing that when you see that person, you're going to be triggered. And so prepare yourself for it. Whether it be ground yourself, some deep belly breaths. Make sure to accept the situation is what it is, no matter what it is. If he's not paying you your child support, it is what it is. In that moment, when you have to go drop the kids off, you can't change it. So try your best to just put it aside. So when that interaction happens, your kids aren't exposed to a bunch of emotional drama, as well as you won't be triggered. In those moments, again, it's all emotion flooding through your brain, but bring in the logic. If the marriage is over, it's likely for a very good reason. So remind yourself that. Step back. This person, lack of better words, you have a life sentence with them. There's no getting away from it when you share a child with someone. And therefore, what relationship do you want to have? How much stress and struggle do you want to be taking place? And so in that moment, you may want to react, but just use that triggering as an opportunity or an awareness to step back and choose how you want to respond, and keep the end goal in mind. The kids seeing their mom and dad happy and getting along. And you need to make decisions, especially until your kids graduate. You need to make decisions together. So the sooner you can get through whatever happened and get to more of a working relationship or even a friendship level, if you're able to, the better it'll be for everybody.
Wow, I think you're ready to create a course on divorce and the single parent. That sounds like fantastic advice. Thank you so much, Karen. Before we wrap up, is there a way that people can contact you if they want more information about this topic or anything else that you do? Could you please share the contact information?
Yes, sure. I have a Facebook page and I have a website, and they're both Karen Armstrong Coaching. And for the website, it's KarenArmstrongCoaching.com.
Super. I want to thank Karen for answering these valuable questions. Hopefully there's a parent out there, a single mother out there, that these questions and answers will resonate with and make a difference in your life. A lot of these questions I had about for myself. I've gone through the process, so it really sunk into me, and hopefully it's sinking in with you as well. But we don't have to end the conversation right now. If you want to continue with this, just add some comments below, and we will keep it going. And if you have any questions about this topic, or if you have an idea for a future topic, put that below as well. And if you want to reach out to me, come find me on starfamilycoaching.com on my webpage, or just search me up on Facebook, Star Family Coaching. Or if you want to send me an email, it's starfamilycoaching@gmail.com. That's it for now. And I'll leave you with this, guys. Just keep talking. That's the way we're going to be empowered and get better at being parents. We got to keep talking. And that's going to wrap up this video. Until next time, farewell, my friends.